You're listening to the Show We Go Baseball podcast.
We had Taylor Broadway on. He opened up about his experience in AAA this past year, and it was unfortunate that with his Tommy John and everything. Yeah. But he opened up though about AAA, and he was kind of saying, that was his first taste of it, and his roommate was Greg Allen. Like, he had a guy that has MLB time, so he said something that kind of stuck out to me that you kind of mentioned. It was a revolving door. He didn't realize how much of a revolving door AAA was with Greg Allen was his roommate until I think Greg Allen had something, like you said, like a clause in his contract or something, and he had to go. And then he added somebody new, and then it's just like a revolving door. So seeing a young guy say that never been to AAA before, he's kind of like, whoa, like this isn't how AA used to be. We're all the same team,
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting with guys like that.
Yeah, it is. I remember having a similar feeling when I played in AAA for the first time, but it is. It's every level you hit prior to arriving in AAA. Here's your roster when you break camp. And for the most part, minus, there's little things that happen here and there, but for the most part, like that's the group you're going to kind of go to war with for the next, 2.5 months. But then when you get to AAA, it's like there's a bunch of guys. There's your roster guys. There's your guys that get DFA'd, and up he's gone, up he's back, and this guy came down from the big leagues, and that guy's going up, and it's every day, and it's just the nature of the level. It takes guys a little time to establish, I guess, that veteran title where they've been around that, and it doesn't bother them anymore. And you just got to get used to it because you go there and pretty much, I wouldn't say quite daily, but you guys saw that this year it was probably close to daily. There's going to be some type of transaction that was going on where somebody's going or somebody's leaving or somebody's coming. That's how it goes at that level. So the key is, we tell them all the time, you heard me say it, like, keep your head down, keep your focus on what you can control, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of tons of things at the AAA level that are around you that are outside of your control that can become a distraction if you let it. And you have to really focus in on what can I control? Let me focus in on that today and nothing else. And guys get used to that over time.
I think too, one of the observations that, I had was just the way to, when you do deliver a message. I remember the first day on the media day, you had the whole group and we were all kind of like off to the side, not of the way, but you had mentioned to the entire group saying, hey, there's going to be people in here that are going to cover the team all season long. And you kind of laid the law of the land of this is what they do. And I think the way that you went about opening that up, there was a little of that apprehension at first, but it made it easier for Andrew and I, and even the others to kind of go in and talk to the guys. And I think they felt a little more at ease over the course of the season. So one of my big takeaways at the grand scheme of things is just your communication level of the way that you get through to your guys is really impressive. And even wins or losses, demeanor never changed. There was times where, you guys lost and Andrew and I knew our place. We're not going to go down there and ask you the same questions. You saw that player X walked 5 people or, you didn't execute and score when you had runners and scoring. Like, you know what I mean? So we kind of knew what our place was when it came to that. But I think from that communication standpoint, that is a skill that I got to see firsthand on a level with a baseball team that I don't think people really understand when it comes to, because you have so many personalities that you're managing besides them being baseball players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you feel that way. Number one, that was actually something I didn't do in 2022 as my first year there. And I think part of it was maybe not me personally, not fully understanding the scope of the media that we would have, around us, during the course of the season until I kind of got rolling. I was like, this is a kind of a big enterprise here. I should have known. It's the Red Sox and we're fairly close to Boston. So that was something I talked to Bill Wanless about actually leading into 2023 in the offseason on something that he and I had spoke about. And he, Bill's wonderful. He's another sounding board for me. It's been around the game for a long time. And he thought, and we talked about that being an idea of not only at easing the media people that we'll have around, but also the players understanding this is part of your development as a player. Like you're a member of the Boston Red Sox, right? And you go to the big leagues and there's there's a lot of media attention that comes with it in the AL East. So them understanding that's part of their responsibility on a given day. If people are in there and the time that they're allotted, the media is allowed to be in there, and they ask you, give them the 5 minutes of time that when you are able to, as long as it's not interfering with your schedule. But it's part of the duties, right? So I thought it was appropriate for them to hear that, and we'll probably do it again this year with our new crop of guys just having an understanding that's part of the gig. So, but no, I appreciated you guys as well. Particularly the games that are obvious, like, let's not go in and ask them the question like, hey, we blew a 4-run lead and we walked 6 and whatever. That's pretty obvious as to what happened. I don't really want to rehash it.
There's times. I mean, it'd be like the 8th inning, and Andrew and I would be in the back of the press box, and Andrew would be like, "We're not going to go down, right?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't think that." No, I think us asking him about, tonight doesn't make sense.
You get an idea. It's pretty. Sometimes it's clear cut, and there's other times where it's not as clear cut, and those are where the questions come. But yeah, there's some, and I appreciate you guys' the feel you use. I know we throw that word around a lot in baseball, but having some feel, and my first experience with both of you, but I thought you guys, you displayed good feel within our locker room, and it was appreciated.
Thank you for that. But I will say there were sometimes just a little bit of me. You got thrown out of a couple games. This season. I did. I was like, we should go down there, but I'm like, I don't know, man. But
I don't know what the final number was. I was actually behaving really, really well. I think I had a little string there towards the end. It seems to happen where I felt like, man, I think I might only get kicked out once this year, and I think it ended up being 3 or 4 again. I think I had 5 or 6 in 2022, but yeah, I thought with the rule changes, there was a few late, with the rule changes and the fact that you don't have to really argue about balls and strikes much anymore. So I shouldn't get kicked out of many games, but there was still a few things.
Yeah, it was there was a part of me, I'm like, you know what? Like, he got thrown out in the 2nd inning. He's probably pretty cooled off by now, but no, it's okay. But I do want to comment on this before we switch lanes, but it was interesting. Joe Jakes came on the show, one of your trusted lefties this past year. Oh, yeah. And he was talking about something with the media aspect, and he kind of told us, he's like, guys, like, I pitched in Indianapolis when he was with the Pirates, and he was just like, he never had a single media member in the locker room around anything in AAA until he got to Worcester, and he's like, it was completely different. So I found that interesting.
That is true. I mean, that's fair. I just think it's the like I said, the AL East, the Red Sox, right? Like that's a huge part of it. But when you're AAA club, and a lot of them are now, but when you're that close in proximity to your major league team, you're only 40 minutes away. It's going to draw people in, but I do think it's just, there's something that comes with playing for the Red Sox, playing in the AL East, that it's a little bit, now I realize it needs to be covered. It needs to be something that you talk about with your players and they understand it, because if they're coming from elsewhere, it may shock the players themselves. Like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting to see, 9 or 10 people in here after a game or before or after BP or whatever it is. And just making sure they understand that and how to appropriately handle it is important.
I want to talk about your staff last year a little bit. You had one. Oh, we're biased just because I guess we were around you guys a lot, but from top to bottom, I think every single guy in your staff was, treated us very respectfully. They, anytime we ever had anything, Paul Abbott, Flo, Montville, Getty, any of those guys, fantastic to be around. What was it like, I guess, being part of that, having that crew last year by your side?
Yeah. This year, 2023 in particular was fun because we had the same group. What was cool about this year is we for the most part had the same group of staff in 2022 as we did in 2023. 2022, just like I just described to you with our players and new free agents coming in and taking a period of time for everybody to kind of get to know one another or whatever. I spent a lot of time leading into the 2022 season, like calling those guys, reaching out to them, just having conversations, trying as much as I could to get to know them, and then getting to spring training, eating lunch with them, same kind of thing, like trying as much as I can to get to know them, make sure they know what I'm all about. But even still, you get to the season, until they actually work with you and see how you respond to situations, they don't really know. There's that uncertainty, right? Well, we kind of cut through all that red tape in 2022, and by the end of that season, I think we all had a really good feel for each other. So being able to kind of run it back and work together again in 2023, and all that legwork is done, and we just hit the ground running, was a lot of fun. And I think we had all learned each other. We knew how each other ticked. We knew the schedule, how I like to run a schedule and what I like done. They know how I like to do that. So all that was out of the way, and everybody just worked, and we learned each other's mannerisms. You could tell body language when he's upset, when he's not. And it just made for a really fun season. But they are a hardworking group of people, and all of them have bright futures, and they're fun. They're fun to be around. And I think what you guys saw, it leaks through when you see people that care about the players, like they go the extra mile. We all do. We realize what we're there for. The ultimate goal is not for us, right? It's for the 26 dudes or whoever the 26 guys are that are in that room at that time, and doing whatever we can to help them be successful. And all of us and all of that staff understands that. So they're incredible people.
Have you, I don't know if you, so you lived with Paul Abbott while.
I did for 2 years, at least when my family wasn't in town. He stayed with me.
Do you have a story that the best story you could tell that's, I guess, appropriate enough for the podcast, but
away from the field, Abby and I?
Yes.
It's honestly fairly uneventful. I mean, if you can just picture one guy sitting on a chair, another guy sitting on the couch with a glass of Woodford after a tough loss or after a nice win. It didn't matter. It's going to taste a little bit different, and have a glass of whiskey, talk through the game, things that we really liked, what we saw, like, man, how about so-and-so tonight? Like, that's what we needed to see. Or, man, like, that was the guy had a tough, whatever it is. And we talked through it a little bit. Maybe it's a day game the Red Sox are on. We're watching the Red Sox in the background while we're talking, but we would just have a whiskey and kind of rehash the evening and talk about things that are maybe like right out in the forefront. Man, we should really get this figured out or whatever. And that was honestly on a pretty nightly basis. That's kind of what it was. It was nothing crazy. And, sometimes if it was an off day or day game, we'd make dinner and sit there and watch. Like I said, we'd watch the Red Sox and make dinner and have a drink or whatever. And we'd talk about baseball all the time. It was literally how it was.